Hi guys, welcome to today's live stream, the first live stream of the day. I'm Libertman, forced to be alone, but free to decide how to live it. And today's episode is powerful because we're going straight into a question that affects millions of men across the world. Why do men wait so long to seek help for mental health issues, even when they are suffering more than they admit? We're going to explore one of the strongest and clearest scientific reviews ever published on these topics. And as always, or as yesterday, that was the first day that we began with this series, we will break everything down in simple language and then analyze what it all means through the lens of the C4PC personality model, the four macro groups that are the internal rationals, the internal emotionals, the external rationals, and the external emotionals. Each of these groups relates to therapy and vulnerability in very different ways. So stay with me until the end for that breakdown. But first, let's begin the same way we started yesterday, and that by introducing the study clearly, giving a brief overview. So in this case, today's study is Gender Differences in Mental Health Service Utilization, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis by the authors Sagar Rathi, Jenny Hills, Charlotte Hanlon, Vikram Patel, and Graham Thornycroft. It's a study from the year 2023 and published in Psychological Medicine by Cambridge University Press. And you have the source and the link in the description. This is a very serious scientific review, not a single experiment, but a synthesis of the entire body of global research on this subject. So this makes it one of the most powerful forms of evidence we can use. So now let's read the abstract of the study, and we will begin breaking it down. Okay, so it starts like this. Mental health problems are common worldwide, yet a consistent finding is that women use mental health services more often than men. Okay, right away, the study confirms the global pattern. Men struggle but use professional help far less. And not because men suffer less, but because men seek help less. I go on reading. We conducted a systematic review and meta-analysis to quantify gender differences in mental health service utilization and to identify potential explanations for this disparity. So they didn't look at one country or one clinic. They reviewed decades of research across the world and pulled all that data to calculate how big the gender gap is and why the gap exists. So this is the gold standard method for understanding complex social behavior. I go on reading. Across 152 eligible studies from 29 countries, women were significantly more likely to use mental health services than men. Overall, pooled odds ratio was of 1.56. So this sample size is really big. It comprises 152 studies and 29 countries and hundreds of thousands of participants. And the conclusion is crystal clear. Women are about 56% more likely to seek mental health help than men. So this is not a small difference. It is massive and consistent everywhere. I go on reading. This gender difference was consistent across types of services, including primary care, outpatient services, inpatient care, and specialist mental health services. So this isn't limited to therapy. Men underutilize all forms of mental health support, such as general practitioners, counseling, psychiatric services, crisis support, or hospital care. There is no category where men catch up to this trend. I go on reading. We found evidence that gender differences were larger for internalizing disorders and smaller for substance use disorders. So, internalizing disorders include depression, anxiety, trauma, and emotional distress. These are the issues men tend to hide or minimize. And the study shows that men are the least likely to get help for the problems they silently suffer the most. And for addiction, the gender gap is smaller, usually because men are forced into treatment when things collapse. Okay, so I go on reading a little bit more. It says, potential explanations identified in the literature included gender norms around help seeking, stigma, differences in perceived need, and structural barriers to access. So the four big reasons men avoid help are related to masculinity norms, this statement that real men fix their own problems is related to the stigma that, for example, that belief that therapy means weakness, is related to men underestimating their own suffering. They ruminate in their own thoughts, saying to themselves that I am fine, and is related to structural barriers such as cost of therapy, access, the time, or availability of therapists. And so it's not one reason, it's an entire social system that is shaping male behavior. I go on reading a bit more. Our findings highlight the need for interventions that specifically target barriers faced by men and encourage timely help seeking. So the authors conclude that men need specialized approaches, that standard mental health models don't fit male psychology, and effective systems must be designed for men, not just for everyone. So this is a scientific validation of something men have been saying for decades. So now that we have read the entire abstract in its real and understood each part, let's start unpacking the key findings more deeply. But before I continue with this, let me remind you that if you are enjoying this live stream, this is a great moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps the algorithm to recommend this content to more men who need it, and it supports the channel so I can keep bringing these studies every day, plus the additional content of the channel that is organized in several playlists for your order, so you can find it sooner. All right, so now let's move into the deeper analysis of these studies. So as I was saying, now that we have read the full abstract, let's go deeper into what the researchers actually found when they analyzed 152 studies across 29 countries. And so I'll break this down using everyday language you can use in your life to try to make this as simple as possible. So the first key finding is that women seek help earlier and men wait until crisis mode. So across the meta-analysis, a consistent, they discover a consistent pattern that women tend to seek help as soon as symptoms begin or when distress becomes noticeable, while men tend to seek help only when the situation becomes unmanageable, when job collapse, relationship breakdown, addiction spiraling, panic attacks, or suicidal ideation. So almost in the final stages. So one sentence that summarizes the entire phenomenon would be this: women tend to prevent deterioration, while men respond only after deterioration happens. And that's a structural gender gap. Another of the key findings of the study is that men underestimate how bad their own mental state is. So almost all reviewed studies showed that men minimize sadness, that men normalize exhaustion, Men reinterpret depression as stress. Men reinterpret anxiety as not sleeping well, or reinterpret emotional collapse as losing motivation. In other words, men reframe emotional suffering as functional problems. So instead of saying, I'm depressed, they say, I'm tired, or I'm unmotivated, or I just need to push through, which delays help seeking by years. All the opposites of what we see every day, not myself because I don't have TikTok, but what anyone can check on TikTok every day about women bitching about whatever problem or their emotional state or collapses every day. At the very first instant that they realized that they were in shock about something. So the next finding is related to masculinity norms that still predict avoidance of therapy. So one of the strongest findings of the entire review is that men who score higher on traditional masculinity norms are the least likely to seek help. So norms like self-reliance, emotional control, stoicism, toughness, this handle your own problems, don't open up or complain, be a man. These kind of norms correlate with higher suffering and lower help seeking. And this is global, not cultural, meaning it appears everywhere, in Europe, in the US, in Latin America, Middle East, or Africa, and Asia, very evenly. Whenever a culture teaches boys to equate emotional disclosure with weakness, men grow up and prepare for the internal collapse experience. Then we have another key finding, that is that the service system is designed more for women than for men. So the therapy environments tend to be verbal, emotional, introspective, relational, with long format, dependent on emotional articulation. So these styles align better with female help-seeking patterns, or with one of the four C4PC model macro group of the four that we are going to see later. In the case of men, I mean. So many men report this, in general terms, many men report discomfort in highly emotional environments, fear of being judged, inability to articulate feelings, feeling infantilized, fear of being lectured. Now with this trend of the man's explaining, or the women's planning that we are experiencing as a novel kind of experience, or postmodern. And also men report a lack of male-oriented frameworks. So the conclusion is simple in this case. The system was not built for the average man, and men can feel alienated before the session even starts. Another of the findings is that substance abuse is the exception. Men seek help slightly more often, but usually only after collapse. So the study found that for emotional disorders, women seek help more. And when it comes to, in the case for addiction, the gap is smaller, sometimes reversed. So, but the explanation is extremely important in this case, because men rarely seek help voluntarily for addiction. They seek help when they are forced to. For example, with a partner ultimatum, a job intervention, a legal trouble, or a very heavy health crisis. So even here, the pattern is the same. Men wait until the breaking point. So let's explore a little bit about why men delay. We can break down like 5 mechanisms, main 5 mechanisms, which are the 5 reasons men around the world delay seeking mental health help. The first reason is social conditioning. Men are taught from childhood these phrases such as "don't cry," "don't complain," "fix it yourself," "don't be a burden," and seeking help violates male role expectations. The second reason is the emotional illiteracy. That is not a stupidity, it's lack of vocabulary. Many men simply don't have the internal map to identify what they are feeling, mostly because of their cognitive structure that we are going to see in the C4PC model, in the different groups. So they say, I'm stressed, instead of saying I'm anxious, or saying I'm tired instead of saying I'm depressed. So if you cannot name the problem, you cannot ask for help for that specific problem. Another reason is the fear of being perceived as weak. So men fear becoming unattractive, losing respect, disappointing others, appearing incompetent, or being socially devalued. This is one of the strongest masculine fears, because there is like a struggle between manliness or learned manliness with the internal experience as a person, whether you are a man or a woman. When you are struggling because certain circumstances in life are overpassing your capacity to react or to respond to a certain situation, and you get overwhelmed in the area of life, that whichever area of life, there is like for men there is an extra struggle, because we have to fight inwardly with these learned patterns of perceived manliness. Another reason is the structural barriers that men report to have no time, because we are all overworking, right, or having 2 or 3 jobs, financial constraints, poor access to the services, unfamiliarity with the system. Most men haven't gone to any physician or psychologist, or maybe ever, or in the last 15 years or so, and many processes have changed, or in their state, or in their province, and also they find long waiting list to get to the service, and also not knowing where to start and how. Unlike women, men rarely ask friends for a therapist recommendation or a counselor to review or have a different perspective from a professional about certain important decision in their life, things like that. And the fifth reason is a preference for functional coping. Men focus on functioning, not feeling. So if they can work, they think they are fine. And only when functioning collapses is when they recognize the severity of the problem. So all these are in general terms, but considering that these 129 studies across 29 countries of men, right? So what this means through the C4PC model. Now let's analyze the implication for each of the 4 macro groups of male personality. This is where things get practical and personal. So let's start with the internal rationals group, that are the analytical men, the introspective, the structured, inward focused, how they experience mental health struggles. Well, the internal rationals intellectualize everything. They avoid expressing distress, and they treat emotions like puzzles to solve privately. And why they delay seeking help? Well, they prefer control and self-management, and asking for help feels like incompetence from the eyes of the external watchers. So how therapy or professional consultation works for them? They respond well to structure, to cognitive behavioral therapy, to logic-based frameworks, to assignments, to weekly assignments, with milestones, with measurable progress, in other words. And what are their main obstacles? Well, they think insight equals healing, but it doesn't. Let me tell you, giving you a spoiler of reality. I mean, it's part of the process, but it is not enough. For the internal emotionals, these are the sensitive men, the most introspective, deeply affected by internal states. They experience distress through high emotional intensity, through rumination, with sometimes falling into shame spirals and existential questioning. And usually delay seeking help because they fear being misunderstood, they fear overwhelming the therapist even, and they fear exposing vulnerability or relieving emotional pain from past experiences that were intense. So how therapy works for them? Well, what it works better for them is compassion-focused therapy, emotionally validating environments, and a gentle pacing, not going too fast into solutions right away. And their main obstacle is that their shame is stronger than their suffering. So now let's go on with the external rationals. These are the goal-oriented men, the functional, achievement-driven men, all outward-focused. They experience distress through burnout, through silent anxiety, through functional collapse, and sudden breakdowns. They delay seeking help because they believe that these phrases of "I don't have time," "They're always go," "I just need to push harder," "I can fix this myself," "I can handle this." So how therapy works for them? Well, what works better for them is performance psychology, action-focused plans, midterms goals, behavioral interventions, and having clear goals. And their main obstacle is that they seek help, but only when their system breaks. So most of the time is closer to too late. Almost 2 minutes before the shop is about to close. The McDonald's at 3 a.m. is they get to 2:58 when the employees are already turning everything off, and depend on the generosity of the workers. And finally, the external emotionals. These are the social, expressive men driven by relationship and interactions. They experience distress through loneliness, with social instability, through emotional dysregulation and impulsive behavior. They delay seeking help because they fear losing social identity, they fear being perceived as dramatic, and they fear facing their inner wounds. So the kind of therapy or consultation that works better for them is relational therapy or group support, and expressive modalities in general of different kinds. And their main obstacle is that they try to solve internal crises with external stimulation. So many times they push the problem further forward. So now, in the final, to round up this live stream, let's check some practical takeaways for you. So, what does all this mean for you in particular? So here are the main takeaways of these studies, filtered through the lens of the C4PC models for your personality. If you wait until crisis, you wait too long. So men must learn early intervention. So it's a practice that needs to be repeated in the long term. Also, therapy is not about weakness, it's about efficiency. So fixing problems early reduces long-term damage. For most men, it's easier to see it in business, but when it comes to their own internal world and in their own mental health, is sometimes more challenging. Then each of the four C4PC groups needs a different approach for this situation. So there is no one size fits all. Then another takeaway is that self-reliance is good. Well, self-reliance is good up to certain degree, but self-isolation is fatal, is dangerous for most of the groups. And finally, most men don't need lifelong therapy or lifelong orientation or mentoring. They need the right type of therapy or the right type of mentoring in a short term, with clear goals, with a specific milestone or set of achievements to pursue. It's different for women, but here this is a channel dedicated exclusively for men, and so what works best for men, what men need, and filter through the different personality types. So if you got up to this point, thank you so much for being here and joining this live stream. I've just started yesterday live streaming, and after this live stream is finished, this will turn into a regular video, and then so you can watch the replay. The channel is brand new, so new people are going to start discovering the new videos in the coming days. So that check out the different playlists that I have organized in different topics for you to start. I recommend to start in the Know Yourself playlist, in which I give the theoretical framework to understand from where each video and content is focused, and then you can go topic by topic in the video section, or going by each section that is organized in playlist. There are 3 playlists. I will organize these live streams in 3 main playlists, as you will see. One is focused in general psychology findings. Another studies are based in neuroscience, and the other one are focused more in cross-cultural findings. And so you can binge watch all the playlist from the beginning until the last episode, depending when are you listening to this. Maybe you already have like a lot of episodes to listen on different topics. And hopefully, if in the following weeks the channel gets discovered by at least a bunch of interested men in exploring these topics, then I might start another maybe weekly live stream in which we can interact and chat live about any topic of the channel, or you can and we can learn together about which are the best ways and the specific solution for the problems of men in this society, but tailored to the solutions, tailored to your specific personality type, and no general BS that is not worth listening to, and because it's a waste of time for most. Okay, that's it for this episode. Thank you. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next one.